Okay, welcome to a class on modal verbs. In the last class, we looked at will and won't, which are modal verbs. Okay, so what is a modal verb? Let's look at it one more time because I did say in the last class, but I want to repeat it. So an ordinary verb, we add an S for he, she and it in present simple. Okay, he, she and it in present simple, we must add an S. He plays, he goes, he studies, he learns, he eats, he drinks. But with modal verbs, we do not add an S. We say he will, he won't, he can, he can't, he would, he wouldn't, he should, he shouldn't, he must, he mustn't, he might not, he may not. Okay, that's how we use modal verbs. We don't add an S. Okay, don't add an S for he, she and it with modal verbs. That's the first difference. The second difference, we add a don't or a doesn't. Yeah, we add don't for you, we, they, I, and we add doesn't for he, she and it. Yeah, don't or doesn't. Well, we don't do that with modal verbs. We have a negative form of will, it's won't. We have a negative form of can, it's can't. And won't means will not, can't means cannot, wouldn't means would not, shouldn't means should not, mustn't means must not, might not, may not. Okay, we don't shorten those two. Okay, so we don't need doesn't or don't with modal verbs, and we don't use hasn't or haven't. Yeah, you can't put modal verbs into different tenses. You can't put them into present simple, present continuous. They just have one form, which is will, won't, can, can't. Yeah, that's the only form. Okay, so that's another difference. Don't use these negative auxiliary verbs with modal verbs. Third difference, ordinary verbs, when you use two verbs next to each other, for example, want to go, with ordinary verbs, you use to plus infinitive for the second verb, or with some verbs, want is always to plus infinitive, but suggest, yeah, when you try to give someone a plan or an idea, yeah, suggest takes ing form after suggest. Yeah, I suggested going, not to go. Yeah, I suggested going abroad for my next holiday. Okay, so ordinary verbs are gerund, that's what we call the ing form, we call it gerund, or they're followed by to plus infinitive. Okay, and you have to learn verbs like want are always want to do, want to have, want to play, and verbs like suggest are always suggest doing, suggest having, suggest playing. So it's always gerund after suggest. Okay, and you have to learn that. We will look at that in a future lesson, I promise. Okay, and number 3 for modal verbs, we don't add gerund, we don't add to plus infinitive, we just add infinitive, yeah, with no to. Okay, so I think we should go abroad for our next holiday. Should means it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea, yeah, to go abroad for our next holiday. We should go abroad. Yeah, but here's another example. You shouldn't smoke. Why? It's bad for your lungs. You remember lungs, yeah? We breathe into our lungs, and so you shouldn't smoke. It's bad for your lungs, okay? So shouldn't smoke, not shouldn't to smoke. It's a very common mistake, very typical mistake to put a to after a modal verb, but it's a mistake. Don't make this mistake, okay? So they are the differences between ordinary verbs, and you know lots of ordinary verbs now. We looked at 100 ordinary verbs recently, and modal verbs. And today we looked at will and won't in the last class. So let's look at should, shouldn't, can, can't, must, mustn't, may not, might not. And these are synonyms really. May sounds a little bit more formal to me, and might sounds more informal, okay? So your